She saw the checks where like Publix or Winn-Dixie paid Kellogg's for their supply of cereal. So can you imagine the size of those checks?
I don't know.
Talking
a couple 100,000, millions,
like
millions,
$7-8 million. And this was back when they were paying in checks.
Right.
So
hey, this is Matt Cox, and this is a podcast, or the True Crime Podcast
with Zach. Yes.
And we're going to be going over, and you notice I did not talk in the mic. Doesn't matter. Nobody expects professionalism from me.
Absolutely.
So
not even me.
So we are going to be going over questions that were asked by viewers. Some of the questions are for Zach, and some of the questions are for me, and
some are for both. Actually,
some are for both. Okay, cool.
All right. Are you ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, apple shampoo, which is one of my favorite flavors. You said you want to turn some of your stories into movies. Who is your dream film director to be able to work with?
Man, who did? I have a few, and I don't know any of their names, but who? So hold on. Who directed Matchstick Men? Great movie.
Casey.
Oh, Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
Of course, you're never going to work with. I mean, I'm never going to work with Ridley Scott. Something's gone drastically wrong in the universe.
Ridley's he's more of the real intense murder type.
Yeah, but he did Matchstick Men, or you could, there's Martin, Scorsese, and that sort of thing. But I mean, but who's my, obviously those would be amazing, but
I'm thinking Tarantino.
Oh, Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, yes.
Some of my stories.
Especially like he could start it from the back and work it to the beginning. When you
No, not me. They're talking about, I don't think they're just talking about my stories. I mean, in general, like some of my true crime stories.
Right.
Listen, I've got some Scorsese stories. Like I've got some insane, like that's so out there stories. That would be amazing. Yeah. Does he do true crime though? Like he's like Pulp Fiction.
Scorsese or Tarantino?
Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah,
I don't think so.
No. He pretty much
crime.
Writes. Yes, he pretty much writes. He loves crime. He pretty much writes his own stuff anyway. It's all his creativity, what's in his mind. Like he kind of goes whatever he sees. But I think he'd be great to add the music and the flavor.
What would be great is so. Did you ever see Argo, the movie Argo?
No.
You probably So it was about the Iranian hostages.
I still didn't see that. I didn't.
That was a great movie. So that was written by it was a story that was in Wired magazine called The Great Escape, and it was written by I can't believe I can't remember his name. Anyway, he actually has a website called Epic Magazine. It's not Kevin Paulson. Might be Kevin Paulson. It's not Kevin Paulson. Anyway, the point is that he wrote the article. Article got picked up. It got bought by Matt Damon. So it was optioned by Matt Damon's production company. Then Ben Affleck, is it Affleck? Affleck came to Matt Damon. He's like, look, they were talking. He's like, I want to do that film. And he's like, look, I don't have time to do it. I'd love to do it. I optioned it. Do you want to take the option? He goes, yeah. He took it, and then he turned it into the movie Argo. Great movie.
I gotta check that out.
I can't believe I can't remember the guy's name who runs Epic Magazine. I mean, I got a buddy who actually knows him.
Right. We're podcasting now. You're mumbling.
I know,
right. Well, come back. Come back. How about the next question is from Austin Navarro.
Joshua Bierman. Sorry, he's a writer. Go ahead.
All right.
He wrote.
Sorry, Austin. Sorry, he's not. All right. Out of curiosity, when you first started doing somewhat shady or illegal things, not the paperwork for the mortgage files, but physically going into bank branches and stuff like that, how did you feel on the inside, outside the first few times?
I mean, it's Florida, so on the outside I was warm. It was hot and muggy. My shirt was sticking to me because it does inside the house. It practically sticks to you. It's so fucking humid. Anyway, so I think I actually answered this in the comments to him, is it Austin?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and actually I talk about this in my book. I think Colby should put my book up right here, just a picture of the book right here. Anyway, which you can buy on Amazon. It's called Shark in the Housing Pool. I actually talk about that the first time I went into a bank, and I talk about how I went in multiple times. This is how bad it was. I went into the bank to open up a bank account with a fake ID. And I don't mean a fake ID like I got it from some Russian website and it actually looks pretty good. I mean, I made it myself. I actually took my real driver's license, sanded off the information, but managed to leave most of the hologram on there. Took a piece of transparency, printed the new information of the fake person I was going in as. I forget what his name was. I think it was Joel Cologne, now that I think about it. So I actually did that in reverse. Then I glued the piece of laminate over it, trimmed it out, buffed it up a little bit, buffed the sides, and literally it looked solid, but it wouldn't pass anything. Like I can't imagine it would pass. It looked pretty good. And I actually went in the bank, and I talk about why I went in the bank. Let me talk about just sick to your stomach. I mean, terrified. On Xanax. Like, I mean, that's literally like, boom, like I'm on Paxil, I'm on Xanax. I'm so flipped out. So, but I walk in there and I sat down. The worst thing you ever want to happen happened. After I walk in and they're like, oh, which checking account would you like? I was like, oh, you know, the gold, the silver, I'll take the gold, you know. And they're like, okay. And I give her, you know, then she's doing the thing. She takes my license, puts it on her little keyboard and goes, oh, okay, Mr. Cologne, okay, how are you? Do you work around here? Okay. She's typing away and all of a sudden she goes, that's strange. Bro, the overwhelming sense of anxiety that hit me, it was like heat. It was like a blow dryer shot from my knees up through my chest, and I swear I immediately started sweating. Like I felt like I was sweating. Now, I didn't freak out or anything. I mean, look, I remember there was
outside.
Oh yeah, I think I felt okay outside. Like I looked okay, but I mean, inside I was like, boom, 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 boom. Oh, it was horrible.
Picture the scream.
There was a cop. They had like an off-duty cop that's actually in his uniform, but he was in the. I mean, all I could think about was like, how can I bolt? How can I get out of here? Like I'm like all these things are running through my head. Like where am I going to go? Like my car's in the parking lot. Like that was stupid. What were you thinking? Like all these things, you're sitting there going, oh, okay. And she went, picked up the license, looked at it, looked at me, and held it up to the light, like to the reflection, and went and twisted it. And I, what's happening? I was just like, I was like, this is the worst thing ever.
Were you talking? Did you say anything?
I'm sitting there like looking at her like, gee, why is she doing that? Like I'm talking to myself, but kind of like I'm not saying anything to her, but I'm going, like I'm looking like at her, and she goes, hold on one second. Gets up and walks off. I mean, motherfucker. Walks over to the manager, goes into her office. She comes out. They come out. She walks over. They're standing in front of this woman's cubicle or whatever it is. She's standing there. She's like, really? They both look over at me. Then she hands her the ID. The bank manager, whoever she was talking to, holds it up, looks for the reflection, tilts it a little bit, does the little and goes, looks over at me again, says something, hands her the ID back. She comes walking, so whatever her name is, Mary or whoever her name, comes walking back over, sits down, puts the card back on her little her little keyboard, and goes, okay. And I go, is everything okay? Of course, I'm like, I'm thinking like, are the cops coming? Are they going to put me in a prison where my mom can come visit? Like, I mean, am I going to have a seller named Bubba who thinks I have pretty lips? I mean, what's happening here? Like, what's going on? So anyway, she goes, and I said, hey, everything okay? She goes, yeah, it's just strange. I ran you through check systems, and she said, there's no history of you ever having been run through check systems, and I've never seen that before. Now, of course, what she didn't say, which I obviously know, is, and I thought possibly you were using a fake ID and trying to get us to open a bank account. She didn't say that, but like everything you just said makes sense. But the ID, so her, of course, leap was fraud.
Right.
She didn't say that. She said, so I just thought it was weird. That doesn't explain why you took my ID. It does, but she didn't say that. Why? She didn't say, so I made the leap that maybe you were committing fraud. Anyway, so she sat there and she typed it up and she's like, okay, how much would you like to start the account with? I'm like, it's $500, and gave her $500, and she opened the thing and did the thing, came back, and what kind of checks do you want? And give me the basics. And I left, I walked out, and I was like, holy Jesus. So I opened another bank account, and I remember this one. There's a bank called Bank of Atlantic, and I opened a bank account with Bank of Atlantic, and that was a guy named Lee Black. I opened that account. It's funny because like in the book, like I'll mention a guy's name and then you never really hear about him again.
Right.
So like there's a whole line of fraud that I never talk about because like there's all this other stuff I didn't mention because it didn't really further the story. But yeah, Lee Black, I remember I mentioned where it was the exact same routine, but it was a guy.
Right.
Came in. I really only had one bank account ever shut down. Like
Really?
after I did like Lee Black, I was so confident. Like I had done maybe a couple others. So now I've done 2 or 3.
Right.
And I was so overly confident, I walked into a bank one time and instead of opening the account with like $300, $200, I walked in, gave the guy the thing. He looked at it, came back. He goes, huh, that's funny. It says this, it says that. Oh, and he like looked at the thing. It was like, that's fun. And he just kept going. He didn't get up and do anything. He just kind of looked at it and was like, do you have your social security card? I was like, yeah, I do. And I gave him that. And he looked at it. He was like, okay. And he just went ahead and kept going.
Right.
Opened the account. And I opened the account, I'll never forget, with $1,000.
That's how confident you were.
Right. But here's the problem. The problem is that like 3 or 4 days later, he called the phone, the cell phone, the drop phone I was using.
Yes.
Or the burn phone, whatever you want to call them. He called it and left a message. I called him back. I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, yeah, we're going to have to close your account. I was like, really? He said, yeah, it's just there's several problems. I really don't want to get into them, but there's several issues. So I said, okay, well, when can I come get my
money?
My money? And he goes, oh, no. We mailed it to the address you gave us. So he mailed a check
For $1,000.
for $1,000 that, of course, I can never cash. Like I can't cash that check because what if, there's a very good chance that not only did he realize something's wrong, but he also realized maybe he contacted the authorities.
Right.
Maybe who knows? So that's almost the same scenario when someone catches you and they call you up and they go, hey, yeah, can you come on into the bank? I need you to go ahead and sign. I forgot to have you sign something. Like I'm never going back in that bank. No. So, like this guy, Doug Dodd, I knew, like they were shipping packages and one day they get a call from like the U.S. Post guy. He's like, yeah, can you come in? And I need you to come in and sign something or go sign for a package. Same thing with Boziak. That's how Boziak got caught. This guy?
Yes.
That's how he got caught. The old man opened up a package at the UPS store, opened it up, and then called him and said, hey, you have a package here to pick up? So he walks in, the Secret Service is there waiting for him. So, I mean, anytime you get called to come back and sign, just walk away. It's over.
It's over.
It's not worth it. So same thing, that $1,000 check, gone. $1,000, gone. I could use that $1,000 right now.
I mean, hey, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Wish you get it back.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit different. Like the first time I did that, I did have a fake ID. I was buying them from a street vendor of fake IDs, and like understanding banking a little bit, I guess better than you. I knew that the driver's license number and the social security number, all that information has to match because they do like a DMV check just to verify.
Right. Mine did, but he'd never been through a bank account. There was no inquiry. They felt it was weird. Like there's no inquiry. It checked out, but it's like if you're 35 years old and somebody pulls your credit and goes, you've never had your credit pulled. Like,
right.
That's weird. And every time they were like, so then they look at the ID and it was questionable. Yeah. It's a questionable ID. I mean, I never had it not pass, but trust me, it was questionable. But anyway, go ahead. So,
all right. So I went in there with like
you had a good idea. You had a good ID.
Good ID. Well, the information was good.
Right.
So I wasn't going to ever get that's interesting. That's weird.
Well, yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're.
But the strangest
It's just
thing,
a real person, though, too.
right? It's a real person.
Okay.
So they put it together. The strangest thing that ever happened is, like, I went in there with a guy that I had convinced, like, hey, this is work. You seen me do one the other day. I did one. This is absolutely going to work. So we go in and we sit down with one of the bankers, and it's a gay guy, sweet as candy, and hey. So he looked at the ID one time. So we go in. And he's typing it up, he's asking us questions. He gets the ID and he holds it up and he looks. Then he puts it back down and they're like, what kind of account do you want? Give me the information. He puts the information in and he goes in. And he's all right, well, let me go get the paperwork and process everything. So he steps out to get the paperwork and we're in there talking like, ooh, this is easy. This is good. He's gone for a good minute, not a super good minute. Like some people have left and they've been gone so long. I'm like, look, I'm leaving. I don't know what the hell or where they're at. You know what I'm saying? I'm gone. But he was gone for a good minute, but not a intimidating minute. So he comes back, gets the ID, gets the paperwork. He goes through, gives us the checking paper and all the information, gives us the ID back and said, okay, your account's open. I went ahead and put your money in the account, $100, and the account's open, so you'll be able to access it online. Everything's good. And that police officer will be waiting on you when you get ready to leave. And we're like, our heads whip around with noise like, like we're going, when did you know?
Right. And so, did you just steal $100 from me? Like, I'm going to get arrested.
No, your account is open, but
yeah. You'll never be able to access
that's right,
it.
But it's open. Yes. Swear to God. Like we're in the police car going.
To be honest,
when did he?
Like that's a banker.
That's a banker.
That's a solid. I shouldn't be shocked.
You shouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that's a banker.
Oh, he was. Like we're in the car going, like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? The police at the door. Like you don't even you might have seen him come in like, oh, there's a cop there. Anyway, all right, here you go. And that cop's gonna want to talk to you
because he was so smooth about it.
He was incredibly smooth about it. Yes.
I hate that.
He doesn't I have telltale signs for when stuff like that goes on. Like I watch their hands because once they realize that they're in the midst of whatever setting you up or in the crime.
They get nervous.
They get a little nervous. They get a lot of anxiety, so their hands shake because that's a natural reflex. He had none of that. He was absolutely professional at all times. He's a great guy. If you're watching, hats off.
Hey, wait, didn't your... This is going to spark something, bro.
Do not spark anything because I still got burns from the last spark.
Do you know anybody else that's ever walked into a bank and gotten an ID that wasn't even like you had the no, not a bank, but went and got an actual driver's license or an ID from the DMV? Do you know anybody that's ever done that literally had provided a birth certificate and they were the wrong race?
Yes.
Do you want to tell that story?
Look at him. Well, I don't know.
You can say no.
I don't even know if that's a story. That just goes to show you that our civil servants aren't very attentive. That's not actually a story.
It's funny though. It is.
To me, it's what's hilarious about it is
what is it?
What's hilarious about that story is I'm there during that whole process. So we're requesting the information and they bring it. Okay, we need you to sign here and such. And the person actually grabs it and we leave and they act like they're mad. It's like, first of all, we had to wait 10 minutes. And then she gives me this thing that says I'm black when clearly I'm white. And I'm like, okay. It's like the perpetrator is upset. It's like she doesn't even do her job.
Oh yeah.
That's how crappy she is. To give me that. I mean, she sucks. Like I could rip her off days on end.
I always say this when I would make a fake birth certificate and I would go into the DMV and get them to issue me like an ID. So I remember listen, I slaved over these things. I mean, I'm baking them so the paper's crispy. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm splashing coffee on them. I'm folding them up 5 times. I'm misting them. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I got bleed through the letters, everything. Seals, they're perfect. And then you get to the DMV, and I'm like, this thing is amazing looking. You get to the DMV, and they go, okay, you got this. This is your birth certificate. Okay, that's fine. And it's almost like, whoa. Hey, you look at this.
Yeah.
You admire, like they just discarded it. Like,
amen.
Do you have any idea? Like, that's it? That was that cursory. You rub the seal, and it's fine. This is a fucking work of art. Yes. What are you talking about?
It's
look at the bleed through on the back from the security code.
Like, I've looked at this for hours.
Yeah, this is,
you have no right to ignore my work.
I mean, it's upsetting.
It is.
It's a good kind of upsetting though, because the bad kind is the okay, that police officer will be waiting for you over there when you leave.
Here's everything you asked for and a trip to jail.
You're talking to
Can
Sergeant.
we get coffee?
Yeah.
No, just
Okay, so what's the next one?
All right, next question is for me.
We'll never get through this. This is going to be an hour.
What is Zach's relationship with friends and family now that he's a free man? Have people stopped talking to him? No.
Towards the end, you were pretty much surrounded by nothing but criminals anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Towards the end.
So, and criminals, like people who've been arrested or people who've been around or related to people who have been arrested have no opinion about the criminal justice system. It seems like it's like an everyday part of life,
right?
Like grocery shopping. Now, America locks up so many people that it's no longer a taboo to have been to prison or been arrested. That's just how many people get locked up. So some people still have an opinion, but most of them, like I'd say about 80% of the population now is like if you're under 30 or under, absolutely, like arrest is an everyday part of life.
Well, so
they get arrested protesting. Like the younger people now protest all day. They're out there marching and they get arrested and let go, arrested and like. So
it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But
it's different.
I have a different perspective. Like I have a different experience with that. Like I think that upper middle class white people, it's a taboo. Like, for my sister who's, an upper middle class, suburban mom and her husband's a prominent attorney. And, I have friends that were CPAs and, they're lawyers, CPAs, doctors, dentists, like they don't want anything to do with you. But I had a vastly different group of friends because I had a group of friends, my closer friends who were involved with me, they know. Like they're doing little shady stuff, but it's like if you're an appraiser and you're doing little stuff on the side for me, you still have the perception that you're a legitimate person. And I had a friend that was one was a CPA, I had another person that was they owned an insurance company and they also did taxes. So this is a legitimate woman who's got a husband, a child, and she's doing fake taxes for people that don't exist, 1040s, 2 years 1040s, plus a profit and loss statement. Wow. She's doing 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 for me every month, every single month. Wow. And she's doing them. Keep in mind, this is the same kind of person that they vote. They go to the PTA. They go to all the soccer games. If somebody's child gets arrested, it's like, oh my gosh, he did that? Oh, that's horrible. I can't believe. You're committing fraud every single day just because you never got indicted. But a lot of those people, the legitimate people, so some people were next to me and they knew what was going on. Other people were outside of that, like my sister, my brother, my other sister, people that had legitimate people, like they're like completely like, they don't say my brother's in prison. They're like, ignore the whole thing. Like they don't want to know about it. They don't want to be associated with it at all. They're embarrassed. They don't want to come see me in prison. I'm not going to go up to a prison. I have to wait in line and be around prisoners it's like, well, yeah. So it's like, no, that's not happening. And then you have other people that were close to me that came to see me in prison. Like I had my close friends that, drove from Atlanta, Georgia to come see me, several times. People came from Tampa to see me. Your mother's going to come see you no matter what.
Right.
You could run over a busload of children and she'd be like, he's really a nice boy. He didn't see him.
That's what they tell the cameras, but yes.
Here's the funny thing. So the core members of the group when I was in Tampa, not when I was on the run, but when I was in Tampa that were committing fraud with me, that were listed on my indictment but were never prosecuted. So there's a guy named Rudy Arnotts who was listed on my indictment but never prosecuted. There's another chick named Kelly Bailey. Like, these are all people in Tampa that are legit people. Like, people look up to them. Like, they're a successful realtor, successful broker, successful real estate investor. Like, literally, when I see them, I saw Kelly Bailey one time, right? So I'm with this guy, Eddie Sorales. We're walking. We're walking out of he was doing some seminar.
Your recent release?
Recently. Oh, this was a year ago.
Okay.
Just before COVID. So I had gone to, Eddie Sorales does like a training seminar. And I went to the seminar and was listening to him and him talk and do this training seminar. And I'm leaving. And as I'm walking out, I see this woman, Kelly Bailey. And she sees me and we stop and I go, Kelly. I said, what's going on? And she looks at me and she goes, like, she doesn't recognize me. And Eddie goes, you don't know who this is? He goes, it's Matt. And she went, oh. I said, I know. You thought I was in prison. I said, I just got out. Like that. I said they messed up. And I'm like laughing. And I'm thinking we were friends. We were close friends. And here's the beautiful part about it. Is that I'm looking at her and she's so overwhelmingly just disgusted by me. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, oh, you think you're a legitimate person because you didn't go to prison. Like, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking, oh, you're one of those people that, keep in mind, I can't tell you, probably close to $1 million in fraudulent loans that I provided for Kelly Bailey, where she didn't qualify, where she's going to closing with $30,000 and she's walking away with 100 and something thousand. I mean, that's a cashback scheme. Plus your employment is faked. The property is horrible. Like, the property doesn't qualify. That the appraisal's fake. All of which or the property's gutted inside, and I get the appraiser to say that the property's in perfect condition and show pictures of another property to get you the loan and get you the money back to rehab. I mean, it's fraud from A to Z. The only thing that existed that was true was she actually showed up and signed. Like, everything, that the employment's fake, everything's fake. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, because you bought all these properties and because you never got indicted, you think you're a legit person. You've got everybody so fooled, you fooled yourself.
Yes.
Like, you're believing your own press. And I listen, I almost wanted to say, whoa. I don't know who you look at. Like, I almost dove down that, and I just looked at it and I went, well, you know what? I hope you're doing great. And I just went ahead and did the whole thing, and I'm looking at her, but I mean, deep down, and she had to know.
Like, I remember. I remember.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah. It's like, remember the time you walked
I know
away
who
with,
you are.
Remember the time you walked away with that $100,000? Remember that time you walked away with $150,000? Remember that time you walked away with $40,000 or $60,000? Remember that time there's just left and right. There was just one after another. All those real estate, all that stuff houses you were flipping, all fraud. Like, all of it's fraud. But yeah, same thing. So that was one. Another one was a guy named Rudy Arnotts, who's a realtor in Tampa. Yeah. So this is funny. I went to the halfway house. So I'm in the halfway house, and as soon as I get to the halfway house, right, like, I'm looking people up. I'm looking up, Allison. I'm looking up so-and-so. I'm friending people. I figure out how Facebook works, because I've never been on Facebook.
Right.
They didn't have iPhones when I went in. So I'm looking at all this stuff, and, oh, this is cool. Oh, hey, look, it's Allison. Let me tell you. Oh, hey, who's? So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, but there's Rudy Arnotts, which Rudy was my cut partner.
Right.
Like we get 100 grand. Like Rudy gets 25, he gets 25, I get 25. This guy, like, we're all cutting it up.
Whether you were involved in it or not.
Absolutely, we're doing good. Now he was involved. So I mean, I go and I message him. Bro, what's going on? I'm in the halfway house. I just got out. Hit me up. Here's my phone number. Man, we got to get together. I'd love to talk to you, catch up, see how everything's going. Definitely let me know what's going on. Call me.
Right.
So, like the next day, Allison calls me. She goes, "Hey." I said, "Hey, what's going on?" She goes, "So you messaged Rudy, huh?" And I go, like Allison lives like 5 states away. She lives in one of those square states in the middle of the country somewhere, I was educated in Florida. I can't tell you the name of it. It's one of them. So
Nebraska.
it's something like that. Yeah. So she's like, yeah. So yeah, you contacted him. And Allison went to prison. So Allison, who went to prison in the scam, talks to me. No problem. Totally like accepting of everything. Rudy, who should have gone to prison for millions and millions, his count should almost be the same as mine. His money count should be the same because he's involved in every transaction. He's the one acquiring the properties, writing the contracts. I mean, he's doing he's involved in every aspect, just like me. So he ends up saying, after he got my message, he contacted a mutual friend of ours by the name of Jason. Jason turned around and contacted Allison, told Allison, you need to call Matt, because Rudy said, let Matt know that if he ever contacts me again, I'm going to have his probation revoked and have him thrown back in prison. Tell him I contact my lawyer and tell him that my lawyer said that my lawyer said he is not allowed to contact me, and he will call your probation officer and have you thrown back in prison. First of all, I'm in the halfway house. I'm still in prison. I don't have a probation officer at this time. I haven't met with any. So she's like, yeah, so don't contact him again. I mean, I said, no, I understand. I got right back on Messenger and I said, when did you become such a bitch? And I immediately was like, I don't know what you think. I reached out to you because we were friends at one time. Don't think for 1 second that, you weren't 100 as guilty as I was in this fraud. And I lay out, I said, bro, you were on my indictment. Just because they screwed up and didn't send you to prison doesn't mean that you're not a criminal. I was like, you pussy. I mean, I went in hard. I said, and as far as your lawyer's concerned, I said, by all means, forward this to your attorney and have him send it. I said, I'll talk to whoever the fuck I want to talk to. Do you understand? And send it to him. Because, of course, the truth is, you can't throw me back in jail for talking to somebody. This is like talking to the guy that works at, Mel's Hot Dogs. If you ever talk to me again, I'm going to call your probation officer. Call him.
Yeah.
Who are you? You're nobody.
Here, let me dial the number.
Yeah.
Get the talking.
Yeah. You've got a false sense of importance. So I did that, and he came back again. You let him know.
Come on.
Listen, this is a guy who did cage fighting. He was into taekwondo and martial arts. This guy actually went
telling me about him.
Yes. This is a guy from Belgium.
Super fit. He was a short Italian guy.
Well, he's like 5'10". He'd beat the brakes off me. But still, matter of fact, there's a video of him on YouTube interviewing the guy that, some guy that has something to do with Lamborghinis. He loves Lamborghinis. He's actually on YouTube. You should check out his channel. You can leave a message for him. So yeah, he's just, what a jerk off. Some people, they're delusional. It's you're delusional. I just wanted to catch up and be like, hey bro, what's going on? How are you doing? I'm not trying to be a jerk to you. Yeah, you made me be a jerk to you. You made me be a jerk to you, Rudy.
Stop making him be a jerk. Bring out the nice man.
Yeah. God, I just wanted to have lunch and catch up. Oh, you know what's so funny, too? This is a guy that always, I love this. I hope he sees this. This is a guy that always refers to himself as a developer. His business card says developer. He's never. You're a realtor. You've never developed anything in your life. Stop introducing yourself to people as, hey, what do you do? I'm a developer. No, you're not. You open doors for a living.
He's developing.
I mean, yeah, he's working on the
that's right.
process of being a developer.
He's developing a developer position.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I'm a producer.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm a producer. I'm a producer. What have you produced? Well, just baby steps. Baby steps. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, this one's for me, so I get to talk.
That's
Thank
fine.
you. All right, no, good.
I'm going to go.
Zach, when you were doing the rental car scam, did anyone ever go and return a car that was wrecked? And you were on the hook? I know you mentioned usually they didn't bring them back.
Yeah, but you weren't buying them you weren't doing them in your name, though.
Well, I sign them up under company and corporations names, and I would sign up for the corporate logo, so like they would refer to me. So yes, I had people bring.
So you open corporations in your name? You open a corporation?
No, it wasn't in my name, but it's just I open corporations in names.
Okay.
And all right, so yes, they brought the car back wrecked. Sometimes they told me, sometimes they didn't. So the rental car company one time would call me up. I have a story for both. So one time that they brought it back wrecked that they didn't tell me, the rental car company calls me up and says, hey, what happened to our car? I'm like, what do you mean? We turned it in. He's like, no. Yeah, you turned it in.
Parts of it.
You turned it in, but the front bumper is kind of hanging and dragging. You know what I'm saying?
And this is a car that you got. So if nobody watched it, this is a car that you rented in the name of a corporation, and then you gave it to like a drug dealer who gave you cash, and then he drove it around for 2 weeks and was supposed to return it. And when he returned it, it's wrecked.
It's wrecked. It's wrecked. So they're calling me. What happened? So when I call this guy up, he's like, "What? I have no idea what they're talking about." That's amazing. You know these people lie. I'm like, why would someone call and all right?
Stop. People
you're
are
off the hook.
such.
You're off the hook.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. All right. And one time, well, it's a couple of incidents that comes to mind. But one time they called me up and the car is teetering on. It's like, okay, listen, we're abandoned. They call me and say we're abandoning the rental car. We're walking down the highway right now. I'm like, you're abandoning the rental? What, are you leaving it? Yeah, we're not going back. See if you can book us another rental car. I'm like, okay, well, what happened? We're like, what? They're like, can you give me a breakdown of what's going on? Well, the rental car is actually dangling off an overpass where like they swerved because they were either drinking or they were driving the wrong way down the overpass, and they tried to get back where they were supposed to go. And now it's dangling off the middle. And somehow they managed to get out. And it's like, okay, let's go. Should we call somebody? Let's call Zach. Let him know that we're leaving the car and our belongings. Can you call him and get our stuff back? Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yeah. Let me.
When it hits the ground, they'll return it. You know what I'm saying? So those are incidents where yes, they've returned a rental car wrecked or damaged or stolen without actually giving any type of long explanation about what happened. Thank you. I hope that answers that question.
You deal with criminals.
Yes,
they're irresponsible.
They are irresponsible. All right, it says, were you ever on American Greed or something similar? I'd like to see that episode. Talking to Matt? No, I was not.
No. Soon, though. Soon. We're working on it.
Put me on American Greed.
They canceled it.
They canceled it?
Yeah, they did. Like
2
years, a couple of years ago.
They did. But they have something similar now.
There's always going to be 3 or 4 of those shows, constantly going.
There's 1,000 channels.
Yeah.
Like the Court TV, I think they have something like that. Talking about
Vice does them. There's whatever happened to the best version I've ever seen of the doc that's repetitive of the documentary reenactment is Locked Up Abroad. Like, you ever see Locked Up Abroad? Those were great. They really did a great job of doing those.
Were those reenactments? Those weren't actually.
Yeah, no, they always had reenactments. They do the interview cut with the reenactment of the actual.
Oh, of the crime. They had the reenactment of the crime.
Well, they would do the crime and the guy in prison too, because a lot of times stuff happened in some of these guys' things. Almost the whole thing happens in prison. Like some of them, almost the whole thing is the crime. Then I got arrested and I did 3 months and I got out. Other guys, it's like I got arrested and the rest of the whole thing, and I did 10 years in a Spanish prison or something. You're like, or French prison or whatever.
10 years in our prison is unbelievable. All right, it says, does a common con man, they put it together, kind of threw me off. Does a con man ever work with another con man, or are they just two egomaniacs to share the leadership?
It's definitely you. It's definitely you. This is a you question. This is a you question.
So I would say yes. And if a con man partners up with another con man, it's generally to perform a task or a job, kind of like Ocean's 7 or Ocean 11. Which
Ocean 11.
Ocean 11's. It's kind of like that, because all of those guys were leaders. They're people who have certain expertise. So if you work with another con man, you're basically bringing them in to get them to accomplish something that you yourself can't accomplish. So you basically partner up with that person to share the proceeds. So you both kind of have a common goal. When you're going into work together, you're probably not lining up to continue to work together, but you're probably like getting together to pull off something to get a certain amount of money and then maybe breaking it off. Generally, if I were to team up with Matt, like I would probably be learning what he does and going, okay, I got it. I'll see you later. I think I can do this myself. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, okay, thank you. I got some information from you. I'll see you later. Yeah. I think I can do what you do myself. And we would probably just split. Even though we would talk, we would split off and just probably done. This is back in our day though. Probably done our own thing. You know
I was thinking we used to always say when we were locked up, like we had two different. And when we go over your story, you know, we'll go over this, but we always had two. We talked about it all the time. Like we had two different problems, and the problem was my problem was like, yeah, I can get a couple $1 million in the bank, but my biggest problem was like I have that part down, like the borrowing the funds, doing this, doing that, getting the money in the bank. My big problem was getting the money out of the bank. Right. And then your problem was always finding a bank account with the money in it. Your expertise was getting the money out of the bank. Like It wasn't hard for you to get the money out of the bank. Right. It was easy for me to get it in. It was hard to get it out. It was hard for you to get it in. It was easy to get it out. So it was so we were coming at, you know, and we used to always joke around that it was like we just got together
before where we were.
I can't tell you
before the Coleman Chow Hall. You know,
I can't tell you how many times I left $750,000 in the bank one time.
Wow!
Because I couldn't get it out before the scam kind of unraveled, but I had a month to 6 weeks to get it out. Like you could get that money out within a week, a couple of days.
Yes.
But me, I was slowly. I couldn't think of any. I didn't know anything. I didn't know other criminals or con men that was their expertise. To me, how do you get the money out in cash? You go get the money out in cash. Like there was no Bitcoin. There was no like, I didn't know you could buy gold or buy diamonds or I didn't know anybody like that.
Mine was the prepays.
Right. But I didn't think about any of that thing and also I always felt like I had plenty of time. You know what's so funny? There was a guy the guy's name was Killian. Killian was,
I remember you telling me.
Yeah. Killian was with the Romanian mob. And he was in. Did we talk about this on the podcast?
And which one?
I don't remember it.
Okay, so Killian was in. He was actually at the low, and what he got caught for. Well, he started at the medium, but what he got caught for was he was like in New York or something. Somebody had borrowed money from his boss, and they hadn't paid it. It was like $100,000, and so they kidnapped the guy, duct taped him to a chair, and took a cattle prod to him, to his
nuts,
to his to his delicates. And so and I was like, Jesus, bro. And it was a big guy, and he was like, what? I was like, bro. I said, I go, did he come up with the money? And he goes, no, he came up with the money. Of course he came up with the money. And I went, yeah, but what if he didn't? He goes, they always come up with the money. And I go, what do you mean always? This was just the one time, right? And he goes, yeah, it was just the one time. I remember being like, but he and I had talked, and I remember he said, listen, you get out, you ever have a problem like you had before, like pulling the money out of the bank, you want it out right away? And I was like, of course. That's like, he's like, how much money you get in the bank? I said, if I really made an effort, like I could get $2 or $3 million in a bank account within a week, 3 or 4 different accounts, 5 accounts, and boom, 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 3 million. Like I said, I could set that whole thing up in a month, get it done. And he goes, and I said, the problem is it takes me a month or 2 to get the money out. And he was like, yeah. So here's what he said, here's what you do. Next time you call me, he said, because I'll contact the Russian mob in Romania. He said, and they'll go to the bank, and they'll have a bank in Romania. You'll wire it to the bank. They'll put it all in cash. He said, they'll hire the cops to escort you to another bank. He was down the street where you can deposit all the money, and then they'll wire it wherever you want in the world. He said, it's completely washed. And I was just like, are you? He goes, well, now the one bank's going to take 3%. The other bank's going to take 3%. So you're going to lose 6, maybe even 8, maybe 2% of the mob. I go, nah, bro, they'll just take the money from me. He goes,
exactly.
Well, and that's what I said. And he goes, no, they won't. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, they won't do that because nobody will ever use it. He said, look, the mob in Romania is a business. He goes, they want you to come back. They want you to tell your friends. They want everybody to know. He said, and they're not getting arrested because they pay off the government. He said, he said, it's all one big, he said, the government's run by one mob. The mob is run by this one. The banks are run by another mob because they're all working together.
Right.
And I was just like, man, like I would be scared of like, they'll just take the money and kill me. He's like, nah, he said, it's not like that. He said, it's not. I was like,
reputation. That's true of this. I forgot the name of this hacking group that
Anonymous.
Anonymous is something else called something evil or something. Anyway, but once you pay the ransom, they release your information.
Oh, ransomware or something like that. Yeah.
Once you pay it, they release it
right, because they want it known
that they'll release the information. So that's a huge temptation to pay it.
Right. It was the same thing Bozak was saying. Like, I was like, well, what if you buy when he was doing the online forums, I was like, well, what if somebody gives you the money or you pay and they don't send you the stuff? He said, then you complain and they kick them off the site. He said, these guys are making so much money. Like, you don't want a bad review. He goes, it's set up like a business. He's like, you can get a vendor kicked off because they gave you bad product or they never showed up or they never sent you you sent them the money. He said, you can get them kicked off. He's like, trust me. He said, it's all about reputation. I was like, that's.
And reputation, because that's the consistent money.
Right. If it's a one-time hit.
That's what drug users do. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'll burn him. What the hell? I need the money right now. What about tomorrow?
They're just listen. Yeah, they're just trying to make it to tomorrow.
Yeah. If I make it that far, I'm good. Yeah. All right. Okay, it says, well, who's the smartest criminal of all time in our opinion? Your opinion?
What, the smartest?
The smartest criminal of all time in your opinion?
That I've met? I wonder if okay. Let me read it again. I have as much information as you have. Let me think. Smartest criminal. Should we go with just con man?
Well, he says criminal, so
that could be anything. Yeah, these guys, they don't know how. Like, you got to be specific.
Because there are con men that we love, and there's criminals that we love. So maybe I should take it first. I would say. And I want to kind of make it someone famous and not someone that we've met. Because if someone we met, then they're not going to know who they are. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to kind of give a half-ass layout of their story. So smartest criminal, like someone famous wise, I would say, because I've seen a couple of episodes of American Greed where a couple of people I thought were smart that they put off a stunt. But famous, I'm going to say, what's the guy's name that flew up in the airplane?
D.B. Cooper?
D.B. Cooper.
That's assuming he didn't die.
True.
Like, but he may, if it would be D.B. Cooper if he actually got away with it. I don't know if it's so much smart as it's just ballsy.
It is ballsy. To get up there with that money after you rob that bank.
Right.
is extremely
And never do it again.
right. Oh, DB Cooper was a
That's so sad, bro. How old are you? Oh my God. See, that's I they're children, bro. They don't know it.
well,
They're-
he in the 60s, 70s.
I know, but everybody knows who DB Cooper is. It's huge.
It is huge. DB Cooper was a very stylish bank robber. He was one of those, like they call, very courteous. When he robbed the bank, he would walk in a very nice suit, and he'd sit down and say, "Good." I'm sorry,
But he wasn't a DB. He wasn't in a bank.
When he had the funds on him.
No, I know, but I mean, you were saying bank robber. He didn't really rob a bank. He robbed the airline.
He robbed the air. I thought he robbed the bank.
Oh my God! All right, listen, stop.
right, sorry,
Listen, okay, okay. So, all right. So back in the 70s, you didn't get searched when you got on a plane, right? They're not patting you down. There's no metal detectors you're walking through. So I want to say it was the late 70s, 76 or 78,
77, I thought
yeah,
it
something
was.
like that. So he dressed in a suit, smoked cigarettes. You could smoke on planes too, by the way. So
In a section.
yeah, he went up and got into a plane, was flying over the United States somewhere in the West, in the Northwest or Midwest, in the
He's a
Midwest.
jewel thief.
No, I can't believe you don't believe this. You don't know this. So what happens is he gets on there and he gets on the plane, and when he ordered a couple of drinks, was smoking a cigarette, and when the stewardess came, they call them flight attendants now. Back then they were stewardesses. I'm calling
They were
stewardess.
females, but
They were. The stewardess comes and he says to her, he says, he gives her a note, and he says, "Don't be nervous." And
my car.
oh, does it?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
He gives her a note, and it says to tell the pilot that he has a bomb, and he's going to blow up the plane. And he shows her the bomb. No, he's got a briefcase. He opens the briefcase
And shows her the bomb.
Sticks of dynamite, like what really, they were like, look, it may have been nothing. Knowing this guy, it probably was nothing, but it definitely wires or the whole thing. I mean, it looked exactly like what you thought a bomb looked like. He was like, boom. She was like, and he said, gave her a piece of paper, and it just said to tell the pilot that I've got a bomb and that he needs to land at like Dulles, airport, and unload all the plane, everybody on the plane except for the staff.
Right. It's right.
Staff. I said staff. What, the crew? Except for the crew and everybody, but all the passengers can go. And that he wanted. It was a weird amount. It was like 190. It was like 200,000 or 201,000. It was a weird, like odd number. Like not $500,000, not whatever. It was reasonable. So it's like I want $200,000. And she was like, okay. She goes, tells the pilot. He lands the plane. He makes an announcement. We're going to be landing here. They don't know why. Like they're not supposed to land there. Like they land there. Okay. They unload everybody. And then it takes an hour or two to get the money. Now, while this is happening, the FBI, they get the money together and they start writing the serial numbers down of all the bills. So there's like 10 FBI agents just writing down serial numbers, writing them down. Like they didn't have copy machines there. Like they had copy machines, but not there. They couldn't do it fast enough. So they're writing them down. They got like half the bills or something like that. And they end up giving him the money, and then they take off. Well, when they take off, so your flight plan is listed on cards. This is why they believe that DB Cooper actually was a pilot, because he gives them cards
to give to
the pilots, and
and
says
to
he
the
wants to
tower.
he wants to land in like Mexico City. And so once he gives them to them, they come back and they go, we don't have enough fuel. We'd have to land
and refuel.
He's
like, nah.
Says absolutely not. So then he picks another airport that's still, so if Mexico City's here and it's here and it's a straight line, he picks another airport that will be basically is the same line. He's like, okay, then here. Right. So, and by the way, this whole time, they've now got like F-14s or F whatever behind them, right? So they're kind of flying around them and flying and not really scaring them, but keeping an eye on them. So at some point, he now knows, once he knows where they're at, At some point, he gives another card to the stewardess and it says, I want you to bring the plane down to this altitude.
Right.
And I want you to, and I forget, he wanted him to do something else. Oh, and slow it down to this speed. And they were like, he slowed it down just enough so that it wouldn't stall, so they could still maintain speed.
Right.
So they did that. And when he realized, okay, I'm now there, he waited and waited and waited. He went in the back. When he asked for the money, he also asked for 2 parachutes, by the way. So he wraps up the money in 1 parachute, supposedly. He may have also kept it.
He had some on him.
Actually, you know what? He didn't. You know what? He kept the money on him.
On him. Yeah.
Right. You're right. Because what he did was the 1 parachute, he cut up the strings, because when they got it back, it was all cut up. He'd used the risers. He'd used them to help tie him around.
Right.
Okay. And then he used the other parachute and he jumped out of the plane. Now, back then, the plane that he happened to be on, it had a rear staircase that opened from the rear. Because face it, you can't jump out the side of an airplane like that.
Because you'll.
Right. It's too fast. You'll hit the wing like where they were. So this happened to have a rear staircase. So he opens it, and the pilot said he remembered exactly, because he said an indicator light went off. He wrote down boom, right here, something's happening. The back staircase went open. And then they heard it when he jumped off. They knew when he jumped off, because they said he stood there for a while. They knew when he jumped off, because when he jumped off, the staircase slung back up and hit the back of the plane. They said they heard a boom. And they were like, oh, what was that? So they figured that's when he jumped off, and it went up and smashed and hit the plane. And that was it. He jumped. He has never been found. There were tons of rumors, but about 10 or 15 years later, I want to say it was probably, you know what? It was like in the mid 80s. A little boy was building sandcastles at the side of a river, and he found like 30 or 40,000 or 50, I don't know the exact amount, but he found a ton of money, not like a little bit of money. Like it's not that he jumped out with 200,000, let's say, and the kid found like $5,000. The kid found like 40 or 50 grand. Like it was a chunk of money. And so the kid found a bunch of money. I forget exact amount. I could be wrong, but I think it was a good chunk of money. He found them wrapped up, and it was DB Cooper's money. Like it had the serial numbers and everything. Oh, never been found.
There's rumors that some of those serial numbers were in circulation. Like some of those bills have been in circulation.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like now. It wasn't like now where like they could actually track it. Like suddenly you put it in the bank, and when it goes through the Federal Reserve or something, like boom, hey, boom, this is a marked bill. Such, it's not like that.
No.
You're
right though. You're right. They did bring him money. He didn't rob bank. I don't know what I was thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, he robbed the airline, yeah, but this is the thing. Like the one thing that like the stewardess said about him, because she was really the only person that had any interaction with him, was same thing you said. That did anything stick out about you? He was extremely polite. They were like, very nice, very polite. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Don't be scared. It's going to be fine. Let out all the passengers. Like, I don't want to hurt him. Very nice, very nice. And then jumped out and disappeared. But here's the thing about that. Now, people, by the way, there was one guy, a guy that died years later, like 30, 40 years later, like 30 some odd years later, that actually told his wife on his deathbed that he was DB Cooper.
Yes. This was recent, like
about 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2010.
Something. Oh, no, that's another one. There have been a couple. There have been a few.
Okay.
Yeah, there have been a few. Like, I don't know. I think there's been a couple. They actually believed that it was a pilot, by the way. There was another guy that was a pilot that the FBI had always felt like this is the guy. Like everything met up. He was in the area. He was here. He was there. It's like all these things. They were like, he's the guy that could pull it off. And he ended up getting in trouble for something else. They questioned him. He never admitted that this was who he was. I have nothing. I know what you're talking about. And somehow or another, I think he ended up dying in like a shootout or something. I could be wrong, but something happened where he ended up dying, and they thought he may have been DB Cooper. They've just never known. So So yeah, was he super smart? That he got away with it. He was polite. He had a style, bro.
Yeah, well, but only one incident of crime. Like I don't. People they question like how long he planned that, or if it was planned at all. Like supposedly his wife or somebody left him.
Had to be planned.
I mean, you would think.
Oh, I know what it was too, by the way. Like one of the guys that got the money that they thought it was, like literally they had talked to his relatives and like they were going to lose, some house was being foreclosed on or a family farm or something. He said, don't worry, I'm going to get the money. And then like a month later, he showed up with like the money.
Wow.
And so they're always like, they've always kind of assumed it was him. Like it really, like a lot of these things, it was circumstantial, but it still really was good.
Right.
You know what else reminds me? This is like DB. My whole thing is like, if he's really a criminal, he would have done it again. It's like the idea that these guys that from Escape from Alcatraz, the movie and the real Escape, like everybody's like, did they? They made it. They made it. They drowned. They were all career criminals. Was it amazing what they did and how they got out? That was a brilliant crime. That breakout was brilliant, but they died. They all drowned trying to get through the channel.
Right.
First of all, it's freezing. It's filled with sharks. And the bottom line is this, that those were career criminals that had been arrested on and off and spent their entire lives in and out of prison. They didn't escape in their 40s and they didn't all go get jobs at Walmart and live out the rest of their lives. They didn't do that. They went out, they would have gone on to more crimes, been recaptured, been found out who they were, and gone back to prison.
Suffered, yes.
Right.
Yes.
They drowned. I love the romanticism that they went on and got out and lived the rest of their lives. But that's not what happened. It's just no way. Statistically, 70% recidivism. And you're getting out and you can't even say who you are? Like you have to start over from scratch with nothing? Like, stop, bro. Stop. Sorry.
All right. That answer your question?
I really felt like this was going to be more you. I'm going to stop talking so much. That's not. I'm just joking.
Exactly. Michael
Francisci. Yeah,
the mob guy that said that politicians are even less trustworthy than the mafia. As a con man, what is your opinion of politicians? Do you find it easier to see through their lies? Interesting.
What do you think? I mean, I bribed.
My days of dealing with politicians were back when I was in college and school, and like when I helped Ann Richards become governor of Texas. well, yeah, and then she lost her next term to Bush, but that's the only time I've ever met politicians. So, and I'm like a screaming liberal, so I love them. So
I despise them, and I don't see them as trustworthy at all. And plus, I've bribed politicians. I mean, I actually had a
nice.
Kevin White.
You bribe them, I beg them. So like, please change the law. But go ahead.
Kevin White, I funded this guy's almost his entire campaign to become
Councilman.
He was a commissioner. No, he was a councilman. Then he became a commissioner. But yes. The councilman part, like I helped him become the council. Matter of fact, I funded his first election, and then he tied. So then he came back for more money. So I gave him more money
to break the tie.
Yeah, but he went on and then eventually got. There was an article about how the FBI had come to talk to me,
right?
And then there was an article about how the FBI was looking into him, and that I said that absolutely I bribed him. Like they have all the checks, they have everything. They've got all my co-defendants saying, yeah, Cox gave us money to give to him. They have money going to his account that came out of accounts opened in banks in the name of like Brandon Green, Lee Black, David Silver, what I'm saying? You've got these.
You've got the evidence.
It's fraud.
Yes.
So they came and they talked to me, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I bribed that dude. So he then, when the paper called him, he said, Cox is just a jailhouse snitch trying to get out of prison. He's lying. Can you believe that? Absolutely true. Not lying, but true. Everything else is right.
But the fact that he said it on camera with an attitude.
Yeah. Well, I saw it in the paper, read in the paper. Here's what's funny about that is like 2 years later, he gets indicted for bribery. He goes to, not on my case, but he goes to trial like a true gangster and loses.
Like a true gangster.
Like an idiot, yeah. And I think he did he get 30 months or did he get, I think he did a couple, 2-3 years. He probably ended up doing a couple, 2-3 years.
So he's a snitch. Now he's the...
He's selling used cars now.
Good for him.
Yeah, worked for the same dealership my ex-wife's husband. He worked there for
that's a good job for a politician, used car salesman. Yeah. All right, it says, was Zach's wife into crime when he met her, or did he introduce her to it?
Nice.
Who wrote this question?
I don't. Seriously, that's just somebody I didn't even know. He just picked it. Colby picked
89. Okay, so
that's probably the ex-wife is under an alias that asked the question to ask you. It's possible.
All right, so
I mean the
heat. For light, yes.
Are you sweating?
Yes.
It's 72.
It's like the heat is rising up
from my knees. Shut up,
Dubai. All right, so let's just say
a lot of angry calls in your future.
So let's just say no, she wasn't. No. And yes, I introduced her to it.
Did she go to prison?
Yes, she did. Yeah. But I would say that would be my fault on camera. So
it was all you.
It was all me.
You were a bad influence.
I was a horrific influence, Yeah. Big bad black guy, poor little white girl.
Yeah. I have multiple females on my case, and when they were in front of the judge, they all said that I convinced them to fall in love with me and get boob jobs. And then I convinced them to commit fraud, and then I sent them all to prison, and I took the money and ran.
Oh my God! You sent them to prison with big boobs?
With big boobs. Yeah.
Hey, cut the camera. Cut the camera.
Will not be associated.
I'm going to a visitation somewhere. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Good times.
Okay, wait. I think I messed up because this one says, Matt, what's your next crime? LMAO. Joking. Like that's not even a question.
Don't play, bro. I can't go back. Can't.
All right, Matt. I may be able to help you come up with a way to pay the restitution off. Or what is this?
Some of her questions. He screenshot stuff. This guy. I get this all the time. Like, all right. I commented to that guy. I heard in the comment. I put, okay, so what's the secret? I was like, what are you holding back for? Tell me. Right.
And this one, are there any legal hurdles in starting any real estate or title business due to your past convictions? If so, does this bother you, or are you more excited about your new career? Can I answer that? He's more excited about his new career. Like, for us, so my favorite line from Matt when coming out of prison is like, because he had been out a year before me. So I get out and I get a phone and I don't understand a lot that's going on. So Matt is my, hey, do this, go to YouTube, put this, do this. When I have that problem, do this. He's telling me everything. And I'm like, I'm confused. He goes, yeah, bro. I'm quoting Matt. He's like, bro, I know, bro. It's like living in the future, right? Excuse me. And that's actually what it's like. Like being gone a decade, it's like you don't, like the other day I went out with some friends to Chili's and they have a little like kiosk or like an iPad on the table where you order and you pay. I can't tell you how that freaked me out. I'm like, whoa. I couldn't even believe it. It's like, oh my God. That's the first time I saw that. So for us, it's been gone. All this stuff is brand new. We can't even fathom that's what's going on.
You know what freaked me out? The self-checkout. Self-checkout.
But they had self-checkout before we left.
I never used it. Like it was just coming available or something.
Yes.
Like I've never used it.
And it would be 1 or 2 aisles.
Yeah, it was like, you'd have like 8 aisles open and like 1 or 2 over there that I never used.
Yeah, listen.
Now you go, it's like if you want to buy something at the grocery store, that's what you use. It's like, yeah, but no, I don't want to use that. Well, then you don't get to leave with your stuff because nobody's open. Like I went to Walmart the other day. There's a huge line for the self-checkout. None of the cashiers are open. I'm thinking, are you serious? They had one person standing there like this, watching everybody do their stuff. It's like that one cashier is doing 6 of these at a time.
And you know what's bizarre about that? What's going on behind the scenes is they've got some kind of the devices, the self-checkout is, first of all, there's a camera at every one of them, and the device warns them if like you scan something and you don't put it on the
Yeah, it's
scale,
also got a
it goes
weight.
6. Yeah, it goes 6, and they'll look at 6. They'll start watching the person. Somebody told me that, and I tried it. They go, try it. Scan something and hold it in your hand.
Oh,
And then look at the person. They'll be.
See, to me, what ends up
Sorry.
what happens at like Publix is if you don't put it down, it'll say like you didn't put it down. It'll stop and like the train, like there's a mistake or something, and then so you have to kind of sit it down.
Oh yeah, that's annoying. Like,
right.
Please place item back in the area. Please place item back in the area.
The anxiety. Yeah, you're right. The anxiety that I felt the first time I had to go and like figure out like, okay, okay, do that, and then what does it say? Okay, wait. So I scan it. Where's this thing? There was the okay, and it like did it like once or twice. I was like, oh, is it going to charge me twice? And it was like, I sat it down. I was like, oh no, it just charged me once. Like, I mean, it was just like the anxiety that I felt having to deal with that. I was like, oh, I'm not doing this again. So when I was done, I wasn't going to do it again. Then next time I did it again. Now I don't want to deal with the cashier. It's like they got some cashier open. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that.
Hey, sit down somewhere.
Have to have interaction. I have to be nice to her. I have to ask, oh, how was your day? I have to do all that. I'm not doing it.
I'm self-checking. Self-checkout, 2007. Like I remember my wife and I, my first experience with it was kind of like we looked at each other like it's like an invitation to steal.
This is
like okay.
Yeah.
We'll self-check out.
I mean, I would say, what's the rest of the question was that? What's the other?
Are there any legal hurdles in you starting your real estate business?
Yeah, that's like I have a judgment commitment that I'm not allowed to work in real estate, in finance, in construction, and development. There's all these things I'm not allowed to do. I have 5 years of paper. I've already done 2 years. So I have 3 more years of paper, probation. So I have 3 more years. And while I'm doing that, I'm not allowed to work without permission for in any of those fields. So, I can't do that. And honestly, I would love to buy houses and flip houses. And I've had multiple people come to me and say, hey, like I'll buy the house in my name. Just help me do this and help me. The problem with that is like, I so overwhelmingly don't want to screw up, don't want to get involved in something like that. Don't want, like, what people don't seem to realize is like, could I do it, make some money? Yeah, but if anything goes wrong along the process and my name gets brought up, then I go back in front of my judge, and my judge is like, what are you doing? Like, people don't seem to realize, like, if I, like, it's would I like to borrow money? I've had people say, look, man, I'll put up the money to do this. Yeah, but what if the money gets lost? Well, bro, if it gets lost, it's not your fault. Like, I've had guys come to me and say, I want to put up money to back your YouTube channel. I'm like, well, you could sponsor a video. They're like, yeah, no, I want, like, I'll pay you and I'll put up the money and I'll do this. It's like, yeah, I can't do that. Because if you don't get the money back, no, bro, I mean, as long as you try, I won't blame you. Well, it's easy for you to say that now, but when you lose 10 grand of your 30 grand, like when you lose 10 grand, all you have to do is contact my probation officer and complain. I gave Matt money. I can say, well, no, I told him this. I even had him sign a contract. And he'll say, no, that's a lie. He didn't do this. He should have done this. He ripped me off. He promised me this. Like, nobody's going to take they're not going to take my opinion. And I can't be in front of my judge saying, this guy lost 20 grand or 10 grand or 5 grand, or Mr. Cox lied to me. Mr. Cox, like, judge isn't going to believe me. So there's huge hurdles other than just the judgment commitment. There's hurdle. And of course, I can't get my real estate license. I can't get my mortgage broker's license because I have what they call an act of moral turpitude.
Right.
Bank fraud, wire fraud, lying on an application, all money laundering, like all of those are like acts of moral turpitude. It's where you took advantage of someone or something. It's an act of moral turpitude. Now, if I'd sold drugs, I could probably get my real estate license. If you'd murdered someone, like I know a guy that murdered someone that got his real estate license, or got his mortgage broker's license. Like those aren't acts of moral turpitude. So yeah, there's huge hurdles. Like, but this is the thing too. I'm excited about this. Like I'm hoping that YouTube and I'm hoping the stories that I'm hoping all of that, blossoms into a huge career where I basically get to just do what I want to do. Like that's it. So that's a long explanation, but I think it covers it. Hey, real quick, I want to go ahead and let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Seabright Homes. And Seabright Homes is an A to Z company, a real estate company that basically helps you do everything from finding a property all the way to the purchase, to renovations, to finding a renter. They do it all for you. If you're a new investor or even a seasoned investor, it's a great opportunity. Buy houses all over the United States. Right now, they've got 2 properties in Birmingham, Alabama. One is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. Taxes are $840. Insurance is $460 a year. It's renting out for $800. There's a net profit on that property of 11.6%. The second property is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath property. Taxes and insurance come to $840 and $460. Also, it's renting out for $850. There's a net profit on that property of 11.6%. Same thing, home inspection, which will be sent to you. It's a package deal going for $150 for both properties. They're looking for cash deals. They'll work with you on financing. They'll work with you on owner financing. So we're going to go ahead and leave a link in the description, and that's it. Later.
Y'all had an ad?
No. It's a sponsor. Someone sponsored the video.
You got a sponsor?
Yeah, we're gonna let people start sponsoring the videos. We don't charge. I mean, we don't. It's not much. Oh. But the point is that. So like, yeah, we got a buddy that owns a real estate channel that he wants to start doing real estate related videos and finance related videos on that channel. Oh, okay. So if anybody thinks that's a good idea and they'd be interested in seeing a channel like that, where it'd be me and other people talking about just different real estate transactions and just real estate in general, and just, having discussions on like, what's a hard money lender? How do you borrow this? Going through a transaction, talking about rooming houses and just all the various different aspects of real estate, and maybe finance too, just finance in general. Who knows? Let us know in the comments, because, I'm on the fence on whether or not to do it or not. So let me know. And back to Zach.
All right. Was there any scam that he did just because it was cool, awesome, sexy?
Who, me?
I guess either one of us.
I think you. I think mine was all basically real estate. The only thing I liked to do that I never really talk about is, and what I honestly, this is so horrible to say this, that I should have stuck with, like Becky, the chick I was on the run with for a little bit till I ditched her. Like, she used to always say, let's just do this. Let's just do this. This is easy. And I was like, it takes too long. And she's like, yeah, but it's safe. Nobody knows that you're committing a crime. That's what we should be doing. I was already on the run. I'm like, they're already looking for me. What do I care if they look for me for more money? They're never going to catch me. Fucking jerk off. So one of the things I was doing that, I don't know if it was, it's always sexy to walk in and be able to buy whatever you want. You're wearing whatever you want. You can get whatever you want. You're living the life that you think you deserve. You're living in a $500,000 condo in the middle of downtown Charlotte. You're driving a $50,000 sports car, which is now they're selling that same sports car for $80,000. You're living a lot of fun. You're having fun. You're traveling all over. We're walking through passport control, and there's like, oh, hi, Mr. Eckert. How are you? I'm fine. How are you doing? It's great. It's super. You feel like James Bond. Right. But like that, the scam that I did that was probably safe and I probably should have stuck with was where we were like interviewing the homeless people. But one of the things we would do is we'd pull their credit. If they had no credit, we'd just get 3 secured credit cards, make the payments. And in 6 months, we would have 700 credit scores, and we would turn around we'd go to American General. Do you remember American General?
Yes, the loan.
Are they still around?
And they had the little shops in the shopping center.
Yes,
where you'd
yes.
walk in and they'd have like 3 little
Yes.
finance specialists.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember American General.
Yeah. So
they were everywhere too.
They were, and so were.
There was one more.
Yeah. No.
Green.
Well, yeah. You're thinking like Green Tree or something, or there was. It's Citibank or Citigroup. Citigroup had the same type of American General thing. I don't know if American General is still around, but what we used to do is at 6 months,
all online. Go ahead.
At 6 months, I would go into American General and I go into Citigroup, and I would give them a pay stub, and one of them would lend me like $5,500, and the other one would lend you $7,500. So, right then, you've got $13,000. Plus, you've got these little credit cards, which I started for $200 and $400, but I don't owe anything on those. But that's what created the 700 credit score. So now I got $13,000, and then I would just make the payments, and I would wait and wait and wait, and then at 1 year, I met the minimum guidelines that's set by by Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to borrow money from them for a personal loan. And it was up to $15,000. So then I would turn around and I'd go to like 3 different banks and I'd borrow $15,000 from 3 different banks. There's that actual
backed by Fannie Mae. Is that what it is?
Well, I don't know. I want to say it's set by like Fannie Mae or the Fed or someone like that.
Right.
Sets this where you can go to Bank of America. Like any FDIC insured bank lends you that money based off of one of these institutions. I'm not sure which one it was.
Okay.
So you can borrow that money. So I go to like 3. Now that's $45,000. I've made $45,000. Based on a pay stub. So I've got that money. Then I would also run up the credit cards because now I've had these credit cards for a year. They're already giving me my deposits back. So I would immediately apply for like a Bank of America card and they'd give you like $15,000. And then you'd apply for like, let's say SunTrust or whoever, Capital One, they'd give you $5,000. Somebody else would give you $10,000, right? Then suddenly your score is now starting to go down. So then you go and you get denied or you get a card for like $2,000. Once we knew, okay, now we just got a credit card for $2,000. I was like, okay, great. Let's hit Home Depot. Let's hit the Gap. So then you start hitting department store cards. They give you like $1,000, $2,000. Then, you know what I'm saying? Then you get to the point where it's like denied. Like everybody just starts denying you. You realize your credit scores are just dropped down to nothing. But when you added it all up, it was like, whatever it came to, let's say $70,000 in basically or like $70,000 in cash, because you could take those credit cards and you could get cash advances.
Yeah.
Or you could, and then it ended up, plus the department store cards like Dillard's or whoever, you had $2,000, $1,000, whatever, $1,500, but you got like the Gap, Dillard's, Burdines, all these Saks, you go in there and you're just like, rah, 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 you're just running them up. So it ends up total merchandise plus cash is like $100,000.
Yeah, you made $100,000
in a year,
product and money
in a year,
in 1 year worth of work,
right? And
on
so
one person.
So what Becky was saying was, let's do 20 people, and I was like, I don't want to wait a year. I was like, I could take that one person, and I can go get $1 million in real estate in mortgages. And I can do that in a month. Like, why wouldn't I in a month? And she's like, yeah, but then when we don't pay, the FBI shows up. I'm like, but see, at that time, I was like, but they're already looking for me. So what do I care? And she was just like, oh, gosh, forget it. There's no talking to you. It was just arrogance and stupidity and just obnoxious.
But that's not, well, I was gonna say that's not what caught you. So it didn't matter anymore.
Listen, and I absolutely shouldn't say it. That was fun.
Yeah.
Like you got a driver's license or an ID. I never would get a driver's license as those guys. I'd get like an ID. So I'd walk in and what do you want? Well, get it. Let's go. Let's whatever. I'll get this. You have just tons of just stupid stuff, underwear and T-shirts, and you're buying blue jeans for $200-$300 a piece. And it's like, that's just stupid. $300 for a pair of blue jeans.
Well, my sexy crime was I figured out that if you were going somewhere out of town, let's say you were taking a trip to, let's say, Arizona, and I go, look, let me pay your hotel room. Well, then the hotel that you were staying in would ask me to fax over a copy of my ID and a front and back of my credit card, right? And they would punch the card number in and they would cover your room and incidentals. So you could go to the room, stay there, eat whatever you want to eat and so far. And then I found out that even in Las Vegas, not only could I cover your room and incidentals, but I can also give you $2,000 credit in the casino using a card. So of course, computer generated. So if I was able to buy MasterCard or credit card numbers, I'd have a computer generated front and back of ID, front and back of credit card, and we would just alter the numbers and fax it to the hotel. So anybody that wanted to go anywhere, don't worry about it. I got your room and board. So I just fax it over to them. It became kind of a fun way to take care of your friends. Are you going to Vegas? Hey, I'm gonna shoot you $2,000. Just give me half of what you win. So that was our kind of fun, sexy. My wife led that pretty much. They'd always call her for a room. Hey, we need a room. We got you. At the fanciest place in town.
Yeah. Big shots.
$300 a night. All right, it says, what was the scam that you planned and never got to do? Is there any scheme, old or new, that makes you itchy just thinking about it? Yeah, I have one.
I got like 4 that just kill me.
All right, you're gonna hit all 4 of them?
No, I can't hit all 4. I can't.
Well, what's the pinnacle of that?
Oh God, bro. I don't want to.
You didn't do it, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't do it, but the problem it's like it's come up since I've been incarcerated. Since I was incarcerated, so I think to myself, like I would watch TV and think, no, it can't be that easy. And my crimes primarily consisted of, financial institution crimes. Like to me, I went out of my way to try to not take somebody's house. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, that's easy. That's this. But I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get the money from Bank of America and they'll be, but then in the end, I realized that once I was sentenced and once you go through the process, you realize that they're going to make you look like a monster no matter what. Like you're thinking, but I spared this. I could have done this. I didn't do it. Doesn't matter what you didn't do. So it's like, you might as well just mow down everybody. Right. Because you're going to end up, if you get caught, you're done. Yes. They don't hold back at all. They make you sound horrible. And everybody does. Like I'm doing a documentary. I'm going to go film this documentary. And they contacted, they're like, well, we really like to talk to your victims. Can you think of any victims that we could get on camera? And we would like to just, for the documentary, just kind of show the other side. I said, absolutely, sure. So it shouldn't be hard at all. Oh, you have their numbers? I said, well, I don't have their numbers, but it shouldn't be hard to find somebody at Bank of America that's willing to be interviewed. Or someone that maybe used to work at SunTrust or someone that worked at, Countrywide. I owe them a couple million. And they went, well, no, we were thinking more like, individuals. And I went, well, there's 4 individuals that lost money, but I didn't directly scam them out of money. I didn't go to them and say, give me $200,000 and then take off with it. Like I got them to owner finance their house, and then I borrowed money on their house and they hired an attorney and they got their house back. So did I cause them some financial problems? Absolutely. But it wasn't like a scam directed to get money from them. So I'm not sure how that way they weren't my intended victims or marks.
Right.
So I said, but there's only 4 of them. There's 60 institutions. I said, so if you want a good sampling of who my victims were, well, then I would go talk to someone from Bank of America. And they were like, do you know the names of the 4 people?
They want the people.
Right. And it's like, no, I mean, you're a documentary company. Like you're trying to do a legitimate, newsworthy documentary that is unbiased, then you would want to go with the largest sample of people.
No.
Like that, but you wouldn't want to talk to those 4 people. They don't, what's representative is the financial institutions. well, I know it's, we would just prefer, like, so what are their names? And I thought, I'm sitting there thinking, right. It was the same thing with the government. The government didn't march anybody from Bank of America into when I was being sentenced. They found some guy who had lost $4,000, who was an accountant. It was a CPA, owned his own CPA company, had several rental properties that were all $200,000 pieces of property, and he spent $4,000 for an attorney to get his house back. Well, I never took the house out of his name, actually. Just really, he spent $4,000, gave an attorney $4,000 to talk to the banks and get that cleared up. So they didn't march Bank of America executives in to say, Mr. Cox caused us some real issues. They marched him in, and he screamed and hollered and yelled and said, oh, my life is ruined. My credit's ruined. I didn't use your credit. Your life isn't ruined. It's $4,000. I did what I did was fucked up, and I agree I'm a scumbag, but come on, stop it. He's the guy that said he left a statue in the middle of the room screaming. He was taunting me. I left it in the garage. I did not leave it in the
middle of the living room.
And I can't say anything. I have to sit there with my lawyer going, I'm like, this guy's lying. And don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. And I'm like, oh my God. The judge is looking at me like, you bastard. And I'm thinking,
got the nerve to be mad.
You serious? But yeah. So yeah, that's the same thing. So it's like, to me now, if I were to say, you know what, I spare no one. Like, to me, I would just go out and I would rent a piece of property. I would go rent a piece of property. So I'm going to go rent your $500,000 house. And an easy scam is I just go downtown and I satisfy any loans that are in that house, on the house. I create satisfaction of mortgages. I then transfer the deed out of that house to someone that I know, someone I have control over, right? Like a fake ID, whatever. Because think about it, I don't even have to show up at closing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily even have to show up. And all I really need is an ID. I can go on there's tons of websites. You can get them from Russia, from China. You can get them all over the place. You just order an ID. So I could even get the ID of the homeowner, go open a bank account in his name. So the point is that I could either transfer the deed or open that thing. As long as there's no mortgages on the property and I can satisfy those, I can then call one of those companies that buys your house. There are these companies that now will buy your house in like 5 days, or above market value or at market value. We'll send out an appraiser. Great, it's a $500,000 house that has no liens on it. I have an ID in the name of the person who owns it, and we don't even have a closing. It's all done. It's all going to be done online. And where do I want the money sent? Wire the money here. So you never see me. Nobody ever sees. I can rent the house over the phone. Right. I can do you have a virtual tour? Oh, the house is great. I want to rent it. Sure, here's a couple $1,000s for the first month's rent, $3,000 for the first month's rent. Here's a couple $1,000 deposit. Mail me the key. I'm going to go ahead and I can call I can go ahead and then go downtown. Like, they don't ever have to see me. I can go downtown, satisfy the loans. I can then make a phone call to one of these online companies, and then I can sell that same house to 4 different companies at the same time. If I close all of them on the same day, open up multiple bank accounts, and then have them wire the money into the bank accounts, suddenly, bam, if it's a $500,000 house and they buy it for $400,000, that's still going to be $1.6 million.
Right.
Let's say they buy it for $500,000. So you could do that in the name of, I could go do that with 4 different houses. I could end up with $5 or $10 million, and it would literally take, if I did it casually, a month. Let's say 2 months. I could have $10 million in the bank.
Right.
Now the whole problem is, how do I get the money out of the bank? But that's not that hard. So, didn't know it then. But like, to me, it's like, guys are always like, you ever think about fraud? I think about fraud every day. Like, every time I think I drive by a Starbucks and think, yeah, bro, I can't get another Starbucks. It's like $5 a day, $6 a day. It's $150 a month. Like, I can't do it. I'm not doing it. Yeah, there's all kind of, like, I'm constantly, I'm going out to my car. It's like, this isn't what I want to drive. This isn't what I want, where I could be this, I could be that, I could be that. But, it's like, You have to sacrifice. Anything worth having is worth that. That money spent so quick, none of it's left, none of it's around anymore. The people that were all involved with me, none of those people want to take my calls. The people that I feel like I contributed to sending them to prison want to hang out with me because they understand.
Right.
The people that almost went to jail and should be thankful don't want to talk to you. That's how it is for me. Might be different. So yeah. So is that a crime? That's a crime that was not possible when I was originally. It was possible, but it would have been more interaction. Like now I could do that whole crime over the internet. By a cell phone and over the internet, I could commit that entire crime and never be seen. Never went to a closing, they would never have my picture, nothing. The FBI would be in Secret Service, they would be running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to figure out what the hell happened. And keep in mind too, it would be months before they even knew what happened. Because you could do that for 5 or 6 months. Like I could keep paying the rent and keep paying the mortgages. So it could be 6 months before you stop paying everybody and they all start to figure out, okay, we have to foreclose. They go to foreclose and they find out, hey, there's like 4 or 5 different loans on this property, or there's multiple people on the property, or let's say it's a month or two and realtors start showing up to sell the property. They bump into each other. So, I mean, you could keep that loan. You could keep that going for, well, not 6 months. You could if you borrowed money. That's why I used to like to borrow, because I could make a couple payments.
Right.
But if you sold it, you probably would have at least a month, maybe 2 months before the people started figuring out what happened. But it's not going to happen.
Well, my
Just
committed crime.
Give me a second.
You all right? You gonna be all right? Oh, sorry. My uncommitted crime has to do with we had a friend that had a friend. I guess just to make it a long story short, we had a friend that had a friend that worked in the front office in Michigan. I'm sorry, I got the city for Kelloggs. It was Kellogg's or Post. Anyway, for one of the large cereal companies. So what had happened was, what we had been doing for a minute is, like, we'd get access to some of these business checks. And what we do is we would start a business close to that check, to the name on the check.
Right. And
then just drop the check in there. Like you get a $20,000, $30,000 check, like somebody that works somewhere, and go, hey, I seen where they paid my company $30,000. Or we'll take that check. We're going to start a business, and you just give us the check and we'll deposit it, and we'll give you like $4,000 or $5,000. Well, this girl had access to the checks where Publix, and it's either Kellogg's or Post. It won't come to me. I think I'll think it in the middle. Had access to the checks where Publix paid Kellogg's.
Your ex-wife probably knows. We could ask her.
Stop. Stop.
Okay. Sorry. My bad. Sorry.
All right.
It'll be in the comments now.
Yes. Hopefully.
It was Post.
I'm going to give her your number. I'm telling you, I'm not getting.
Good times.
All right. So, yeah, good times. So she saw the checks where like Publix or Winn-Dixie paid Kellogg's for their supply of cereal. So can you imagine the size of those checks?
I don't know.
Talking
a couple 100,000, millions,
like
millions,
$7-8 million. And this was back when they were paying in checks.
Right.
So the thought of that was like, okay, that's going to be a different animal to take on. That's not something that we could just, hey, this is a brand new company. We got a $7 million check.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So it was getting ready to get prepped and ready to receive that payment. And like we were arrested before then, but
so upsetting. Right.
The preparation went as far as to like talking to the person that was providing the check about, okay, you're gonna need to quit, and like once this is deposited and goes through, you're gonna need to go ahead and tell them, hey, I'm out of here, because you don't want them asking you, because employers will, when they call you in, Like, hey, go ahead and log out of your computer. Can we holler at you real quick? That's normally the arrest, because what they do is they talk to you enough and maybe claim you said something to confess, and they arrest you. Whereas if they're calling you from home, you're like, well, I'll be there when I get my lawyer. If you're on premises, you can't, hey, I want a lawyer. You know?
You're just trying to talk your way out of it. So
Yes, because it's your job. So, I mean, the preparation for that never actually happened. So it's just one of those things that keeps me up at night. I'm like, man, if that had happened, maybe everything would have been different.
Or it would have just been another $1 million on your indictment.
Or it would have been another. Well, I'd still be in. I think I'd be calling you for money.
Yeah. What's this one?
That's it.
That's the last one?
Well, they said to tell a story about grocery shopping, but I think we did that. Self-checkout.
No, that wasn't there was actually a guy in the comment section that said, bro, I could listen to your stories all day. I could listen to your stories.
About grocery shopping.
Yeah, he said something like, he said, I could, what did he say? What does it say? This one say?
It says, I should actually, oh no, this is what you said. I love every story you tell. You could tell a story about grocery shopping and you'd be able to make it interesting. Keep it up. But you told a story about self-checkout.
No, this is actually, this is a different one. Like, because I was like, I actually have a story
I should actually tell a story about going to the supermarket just to see what happens. I actually have a very short, funny story about going to the supermarket recently.
Only because I thought about this was hilarious. I was walking around. So Allison calls me, right? This chick calls me. And she had just finished reading my book. And so I FaceTimed with her. I'm in the grocery store. She FaceTimed and I was like, I'm walking down the aisle. Nobody's in Publix. This is like at 9:30 or 10:30 in the morning. Like nobody's there. So I'm walking, I look and I go, boop, I go, hey, what's going on? Actually, it was super early. It was probably around 8:30. So I go, hey, what's going on? She's like, hey, what's going on? I just finished your book. And I was walking into to where the cashier is, right? And so I walk into where the cashier is and I'm unloading my groceries, right. And she goes, oh my God, I totally didn't know that, I totally didn't know that Amanda was bipolar. What is it when you like guys and chicks? Was bisexual. She goes, I totally didn't know that Amanda was bisexual. She goes, what's with you and these? This is FaceTime, so she's screaming, and she goes, what's with you and these bisexual chicks? I mean, there was so and so, and now you're dating Jess, and she's bisexual. I go, whoa! I'm going, hey! I'm trying to tell her, hey, stop! Like, there's somebody behind me. The cashier stops and looked at me. I turn around. There's this woman holding her baby, like, and I'm
Don't look at him, honey.
And I'm going, hey, and she wouldn't stop talking. And she goes, oh my God, what's with you? She goes, I mean, you must really have a thing for that. I go, hey, I said, what are you doing? And she goes, what? I go, I'm in the cashier. I'm in the line. I'm at the grocery store. I'm at the cashier now. I said, what? She goes, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Oh my God. She saw me walking through the aisle. I mean, you had to know where I was. And I was like, all right, I'll call you back. And I hung up the phone. It's like, hey, this and that. And the cashier, she couldn't stop grinning at me. She was like a 21-year-old chick, like giggling and smiling. And anyway, so so I was thinking to myself, I was like, I walked out, called Allison back. I said, what are you doing? I didn't know. That's my,
it's like, and you never did answer the question.
So they just, what did she say? Actually, she did say, she said, well, you know what it is? She goes, you're not like a really macho guy. They feel safe with you. That's what it is. I was like, okay. She goes, you're kind of a dandy. All right.
A dandy?
You ever heard of dandy?
No, what is
this? From the 1920s. That's what the guys that were really, like, they call it metrosexual, like a guy that's concerned about how he looks, and they call him, oh, he's a bit of a dandy.
I have never. No, I've seen the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy, but I've never heard that.
What are you talking about, man?
A dandy?
D-A-N.
I haven't turned mine back on now. All right, so.
Ooh. Definition, dandy. A man unduly devoted to style, neatness, and fashion in dress and appearance. Nice. Ooh, the vocabulary. Ooh. Nobody ever uses dandy. Who's using dandy?
I am from here on out.
Well, you're a bit of a dandy, aren't you?
I think you look dandy.
Okay, what are we doing? That's it? Is that it?
For the questions.
Yeah, wrap it. Yeah, I'll just wrap this one up and then we'll do that one. Then do your next one.
All right.
You want to do the, this one will probably be short.
You can do the roundup. No, he said you're wrapping it up. You gonna do the wrap up? You want to say, hey,
These would be separate videos.
all right.
Oh, okay.
Hey, this is Matt. No, I just say, somebody actually said, bro, you don't have to beg for subscribers. Well, you're wrong about that, bro. I'm begging for subscribers. So share the video, hit the like button, hit the bell. Don't be a jerk. Don't just hit the subscribe, but I'm not going to hit the. Listen, if you don't watch the videos, it's no good. So hit the bell. Do the algorithm thing. Another guy said, bro, you stole the algorithm thing from Graham Stephan. I did. That's what I do. So leave a comment for the what is it, the gods of the algorithm, or he says something about the
almighty algorithm.
The almighty algorithm. Yeah, the almighty algorithm. So hit the share, leave a comment, share the video, do the right thing. I got a book. Nobody's watching this. At this point, nobody's watching. You got to be like a hardcore fan to have gotten this far. Like, trust me, we lost them when I started talking about the supermarket. We lost like 80% of the guys long time ago. So
I'm like, you must do a hell of a cleanup job on that closing. Hey,
no,
dude,
he's going to go straight. Listen, I need to do the Wes Watson thing. I need to, Wes Watson. I got to watch this guy. I'm going to show you this guy. This is the guy that you didn't want to be in prison with. He's got the whole time he's got his arm like this. He's tatted up. He's all huge and everything's terrifying looking. And the whole time.
At the low?
No, he's got a YouTube channel. He's got like 500,000 subscribers.
Oh, okay.
And the whole time he's like, as soon as I got to the pin, I went straight on the yard. I went right to the shot collar and I told him, I'm ready to do my duty. You let me know what you need from me. I'm here from you. And they said, well, you got your paperwork. I said, I carry my paperwork with me. I went into the bathroom and I had that shit suitcased and I pulled it out and I washed off the bag and I went back and I said, here's my paperwork. He looked at the paperwork and he said, you're the guy. I said, you're damn right, I'm the guy. And then that was it. He does this whole thing. And listen, I get so much anxiety watching this guy's videos. I'm just like, this is. And
who the hell? He has 500,000 viewers.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous, bro. Then they've got like the best of Wes Watson. They're hilarious. I mean, I can watch the best of what, because he says hilarious, like it's total intimidation, screaming, insanity, but comical. He's like some guys like that, and I got some I can read your fucking comments and, but Wes, what if I have asthma? What if I have, you better fucking stow that shit, motherfucker. Man up, you're going to put in some work. It's just like, oh my God, Wes, what if I have anxiety? Toughen up, bitch. It's like, Jesus. Horrible, bro. Horrible. So if you like the video, and if you like the video, subscribe. Like, he ain't doing none of that. He's not. This guy's not. I had a guy literally tell me, like, bro, you got to do Wes Watson. Are you out of your fucking mind?
You don't want to.
Wes Watson would beat my ass. Wes Watson, I'm the opposite of Wes Watson. I'm the guy Wes Watson doesn't like. He doesn't want. It would be a bad situation. It'd be 10 times worse than the Big Herc interview. He wanted to hurt me. Living in your little fantasy like nobody's telling. What are you doing? Do your time. All right. So anyway, all right, that's it. And listen, buy a t-shirt. I need to get a t-shirt. Remind me, I'll buy a t-shirt, and I need to start wearing a t-shirt. Yeah,
you
and
wear
a book.
A t-shirt.
And a book. And I got a book, and it's on Audible. I got a couple books. I got like 4 or 5 books on Audible.
Who reads your book on Audible?
Bro, I had another guy read it because, my reading is just not good. Not good. Anyway, yeah, it's a good book, though. Audible, got the whole thing. I got physical copies. I'll sign a copy, whatever. All right, that's it. See ya.
Peace.